Before we dive into this episode of Thrilling Event, do not forget to subscribe, like and share for more interesting stories. World War II was a time of immense global conflict, reshaping nations and lives in ways that would leave lasting marks on history. While the battles on the front lines were often highlighted, there existed a crucial, less discussed effort that sustained the fighting forces: communication. Letters were the lifeline between soldiers and their families, a bridge of love and hope that kept spirits alive amid the horrors of war. However, as the war raged on, an overwhelming backlog of undelivered mail began to pile up in warehouses across Europe. These letters, meant to provide encouragement and reassurance, sat forgotten, leading to a devastating decline in troop morale. Without these messages, soldiers felt abandoned, their resolve weakening under the weight of uncertainty and despair. Recognizing this crisis, the United States Army deployed the 688 Battalion, an all-black, all-female unit, to Europe with a monumental task: clear the backlog and restore vital communication. Their journey was one of resilience, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to duty. Among them was Lena Derriecott, a woman who carried her own personal grief into battle, determined to make a difference. At the helm of the battalion stood Major Charity Adams, a leader whose strength and vision would steer her unit through adversity to triumph. Their story is one of courage, love, and the relentless pursuit of justice in the face of systemic discrimination. Lena Derriecott was raised in a small but tight-knit community where education, hard work, and faith were central values. She grew up believing in the power of service and sought to contribute to society in any way she could. As a schoolteacher and part-time nurse, she devoted her life to nurturing young minds and caring for those in need. It was at a local fundraising event for the war effort that she first met Abram David. Abram was an ambitious young man with a heart full of dreams and a deep-seated desire to serve his country. From the moment they met, there was an undeniable connection between them. They spoke at length about their aspirations, their hopes for a future beyond the war, and the kind of world they wanted to help build. Lena was drawn to Abram's unwavering determination, while Abram found in Lena a source of warmth and encouragement that made him feel invincible. As their relationship blossomed, they spent countless evenings exchanging letters, pouring their emotions onto paper in a way that solidified their love despite the growing tension of war. When Abram made the difficult decision to enlist in the army, Lena was torn between pride and fear. She understood his desire to fight for a better future, but she also knew the dangers that awaited him, not only from the enemy but from the racial discrimination that black soldiers faced within the military. Still, she stood by his side, promising to write to him every day, to be his anchor through the chaos. Abram, in return, vowed to return to her, no matter what. Once in the army, Abram's idealistic vision of service quickly collided with the harsh reality of war. Despite his competence and dedication, he encountered racism at every turn, from segregated barracks to limited opportunities for advancement. Yet, he remained steadfast, drawing strength from Lena's letters, which he read and reread under the dim glow of lanterns in the trenches. But as months passed, the letters from home became fewer and farther between. Soldiers around him began to share the same frustration: messages of love, encouragement, and news from home were not reaching them. The absence of these letters became an emotional burden heavier than any physical hardship. Without word from his beloved Lena, Abram felt a growing sense of isolation. He began to wonder if she had given up on him, if he had been forgotten amidst the chaos. What he did not know was that his letters, along with millions of others, lay buried in warehouses, unsorted and abandoned. Then, tragedy struck. In a brutal confrontation on the battlefield, Abram was fatally wounded. He clutched the last letter he had received from Lena, her words of love a bittersweet echo in his final moments. By the time the news of his death reached Lena, it was already too late. Weeks after his passing, a stack of Abram's undelivered letters arrived at her doorstep. Each envelope, still sealed, was a painful reminder of their interrupted love. Overwhelmed by grief, Lena struggled to find meaning in the loss. But instead of succumbing to despair, she made a decision that would change her life. She would join the Women's Army Corps, ensuring that no other soldier would suffer the anguish of waiting for a letter that never came. As the war progressed, the failure of the postal system became more than just a logistical nightmare, it became a serious morale crisis. For soldiers stationed thousands of miles from home, letters were the only connection to their families. These messages carried words of encouragement, updates on loved ones, and the promise of a future beyond war. Without them, soldiers felt abandoned, their spirits broken under the weight of uncertainty. Reports from the front lines painted a grim picture: desertions increased, depression spread among the troops, and some even resorted to self-inflicted injuries to escape the battlefield. The backlog of mail was staggering. Millions of letters and packages sat undelivered, gathering dust in damp warehouses. Some letters dated back over a year, their contents now outdated, yet still carrying the weight of unspoken love and concern. Soldiers who had not received any word from their families began to lose faith in the military's ability to care for them. Commanders observed the decline in discipline, with some troops openly expressing their frustration and hopelessness. The military leadership understood that morale was just as important as ammunition on the battlefield. Without the will to fight, even the best-equipped army would crumble. To make matters worse, some of the families back home were also beginning to lose faith in the system. Mothers, fathers, wives, and children who had poured their hearts into letters, sending prayers, words of love, and small comforts, could not understand why their messages were going unanswered. The postal crisis created a rift between the home front and the soldiers abroad, deepening the emotional wounds of war. The problem was no longer just logistical, it was now deeply personal, affecting the emotional and mental well-being of the troops. Recognizing the urgency, military officials sought a solution, but sorting through the backlog was an overwhelming task. The warehouses were chaotic, filled with sacks of mail spilling over onto the floors, some packages damaged by exposure to the elements. The sheer volume of work required discipline, efficiency, and relentless effort. It was at this critical juncture that the 688 was called into action. Their mission was clear but daunting: restore the flow of communication between soldiers and their loved ones within a strict time frame. Failure was not an option. For Lena and her fellow battalion members, this mission was deeply personal. Each letter they sorted carried emotions, hopes, and memories waiting to be reunited with its recipient. They worked tirelessly, sifting through the endless stacks of mail in freezing conditions, pushing through exhaustion and the ever-present knowledge that their efforts were unrecognized by those who doubted their abilities. They implemented an innovative system of organization, using 3 8-hour shifts to keep the process running non-stop. Within just 3 months, they accomplished what others had deemed impossible. The backlog was cleared, and letters once thought lost found their way into the hands of anxious soldiers. The impact was immediate: troop morale skyrocketed, and the fighting forces regained a sense of purpose, knowing they had not been forgotten. Major Charity Adams was a trailblazer, a woman whose very existence in a leadership role within the military was an act of defiance against the oppressive systems of racism and sexism. Born into a family that prioritized education and self-determination, she excelled academically and was among the first Black women to be commissioned as an officer in the Women's Army Corps. Her appointment as commander of the 688 Battalion was both a groundbreaking achievement and an immense challenge. She entered a world where she was doubted, belittled, and scrutinized at every turn, yet she never wavered. Under her leadership, the battalion operated with military precision and unwavering dedication. Facing hostile treatment from their own government, the women of the 688 had to work twice as hard to prove their worth. Charity Adams stood as their shield and guide, refusing to let them succumb to doubt or external pressures. She ensured their mission was carried out with excellence, fostering unity and discipline. Through her guidance, they processed an unprecedented amount of mail, surpassing all expectations. Their success was undeniable, reshaping the narrative of Black women in military service and proving beyond doubt that they belonged in the annals of history. Conclusion and legacy. The legacy of the 688 extends far beyond their wartime service. Their efforts changed lives, proving that unseen acts of dedication and resilience can have as profound an impact as any battle fought on the front lines. The ripple effects of their work were felt for generations, paving the way for greater racial and gender equality in the military. Over the decades, their story, once overshadowed, gradually gained the recognition it deserved. Veterans of the battalion, like Lena, continued to share their experiences, ensuring that history remembered their contributions. Major Charity Adams and her battalion stand as a testament to the power of perseverance, courage, and an unyielding belief in justice. Their story serves as a reminder that true heroes are often those who work tirelessly in the shadows, bringing light to the darkest of times. Today, their memory lives on in the recognition they fought so hard to earn, a beacon of inspiration for future generations.